All right, so here's what clutch, it's been in storage, but this is basically what it looks like when you take it out of your engine. This one's all dirty and rusty and everything, but this is the complete clutch assembly. So it's completely serviceable. You just have to take off these 6 nuts on the top, 6 washers. This plate comes off, then there's a ring underneath it, and then there's a spring. And to get the spring off, you might need to use impact screwdriver and take out these Phillips screws here. So that's the whole assembly. And the other thing you want to take apart and look, make sure when you take these out, sometimes these springs, these are I think they're called torque springs, they actually flex when you push in the clutch. So these crack, and then they're no good. But inspect. There's 3 of those, and then there's these clips. You want to check the clips to make sure they're not bent. Sometimes they get bent over that way or bent up that way, but these all look pretty decent. So I'm going to go ahead and start assembling the new one. Well, not that it's new, but it's got all better pieces. This is the spring I took out of it. It's got some moderately deep grooves, and I found one that's slightly better, so I'm going to put that one in. So that's this one here. And then what I like to do too is you can see the imprint where these clips were sitting. Those go like that. So I like to rotate it so they're not sitting in the same place. This is the very beginning of the clutch project. Cleaning this piece. And when you clean it, if you sandblast it, take the bolts out. So then what I have is a bunch of parts that I've already zinc plated that are going to be installed on this clutch. So I got 6 new of these washers, and these are special washers. They're really flat on one side, and they're a slight edge on around the corner on one, like like a regular washer. I always put that up. No, it started backwards. Something else goes on before this. The thing that goes on before this is actually this. And that is cleaned. I ran the conditioning disc over it on my angled die grinder. So that cleaned that. And then I cleaned up the ears just a little bit as well. Not much, just enough. So you want to lay that down like that and get 3 bolts. The ones you took out or ones that you know go to it. Three split lock washers. So I got these cleaned up, and there's a hollow spot here. So one goes here. One goes here. These aren't new bolts, they're just replated, but new lock washers. And one goes here. And you leave them all loose. You can tighten them through the hole in the aluminum part. If you tighten them up now, you're going to have a problem. Alright, so the next part that goes on is it's the aluminum part, and it's only going to go on one way. You can try turning it around different directions, but it looks like it would line up there. These holes don't line up. So it only goes on one way. You'll find out when you start putting it together. Alright, so that goes on first. Now you can tighten these bolts up. $10mm socket. Here's my super lube, my favorite grease. This small film, I put it on the tops of these just to help out a little bit. I usually put some on the spring on this piece as well. So the bolts are all tightened up, and the washers are all on, and then there's these 6 spacers, and sometimes you get a little wear marks in them, so I just turn the wear marks so they're facing the other direction. So instead of to the outside where the wear marks were created, to the inside where they're not going to wear. Always looks good. Okay, then fulcrum spring goes on, and then look for the wear marks, and I like to put the wear so it's not pushing on, so it's in between. Now I'm pushing on a new spot, and then another fulcrum spring. These have a slight amount of grease on them. Then there's a plate. This plate goes on top. Usually have to push those around to get them to seat down, and then you might have to put the nuts on first and then take them off again as it cinches down. You might do every other one, and the ones that are the problem ones are the ones that are on the springs. On these ones here, they don't want to lift up. So if you get every other one started, and you might hear a giant pop all of a sudden. Don't be too worried about it. It's kind of normal. Just go around, tighten them all, make sure there's about the same amount of threads sticking out when you're done. Don't ask me what the torque spec is, it's in your manual. I don't use a torque wrench. Use a stubby ratchet, and when my thumb hurts, that's when it's done. I found carburetor screws that have the captured washer. I'm going to use those. Right where this screw is, I put a little bit of grease right on top of that, because that's where that piece is going to be rubbing. When you push in on the clutch, everything moves. Put a little bit there, and there's some already there. And you can always wipe off the extra. Alright. So these have been zinc. I got these already zinc plated. Makes everything pretty. Sometimes you gotta be careful they won't go down exactly straight. You gotta put them in at an angle. Then when you tighten the screw down, then it pulls it down. It's number 2 Phillips. Put all these in, and you're done with the clutch pressure plate. Put all 4 in, you're done. Alright, here's a rebuilt, well, it's not really rebuilt, but it's reconditioned pressure plate. It'd be rebuilt if I had replaced this piece new, these new, and the diaphragm spring new. But you know what? I don't think any of those parts are available. I haven't seen any in at least 10 or 15 years. So if you take it all apart, make sure everything's good, replace pieces that are worn if you can find them. I got a bunch of these and a bunch of those pieces that are zinc plated if you need those for any reason. And I got about 20 springs that are serviceable, but they're not much better than this one here, and they might be even worse. And then when I put it together, I put a little smear of grease on it right there, kind of like cream cheese, like a schmear, but different. And then when the pressure throat bearing pushes on it, it's gonna have less wear because that pushes down. It pushes down. It's hard to push down. You can't push it with your finger. So that's the inside. You see how that looks when it's all assembled. So, and then I'm going to wipe this whole area off here with lacquer thinner or acetone before I put it together. So that's the clutch pressure plate.